Hello, welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a beautiful sunny Wednesday afternoon, just after lunchtime. And I'm cleaning this bench before I strip this 4L80E, as promised, to swap it over to two-wheel drive. So that's coming up, but I was watching a video of myself a few years ago. I was looking for some specific information on a transmission I did. And I kept this bench clean all the time. It made for much better looking videos, made me a lot happier. I like to blame it on the fact I bolted an engine crane to it, and then I started kind of piling stuff around that because, you know, it's a fixed object now. And next thing you know, I got a couple transmissions incomplete sitting over there. This tool pile seems to be my go-to. I mean, I made a toolbox just for transmission tools, just out of reach, but this is more convenient. But we'll see when I strip this if I have taken care of everything and just thought ahead and taken out what I needed, or who knows. So, but this corner is now and continues to be a problem. I have a little area on this rag with, you know, one or two nuts and bolts here and there that you have left over. They end up adding up a lot. So anyway, today's video, while I'm cleaning the bench, I found a box of parts that I bought. I'm always shopping for TH400 parts. It's the only transmission I stock parts for in bulk. It's majority of what I work on. There's only one of me and only so much time. So it's a significant investment just to have TH400 parts, and difficult to find. Only recently I got, short notice. A friend wanted an SFI cased, brand new transmission, all good stuff in it. And I managed to source the parts and assemble it in 11 or 12 days. It took a lot of shopping because a lot of stuff is unavailable and they come and go. Whoever's selling it might get one or two in and they sell them just as fast. So it's really difficult to do. Hopefully things will get better soon. Other times, I look for parts that I want to stock that could be problem solvers. So let's hit each one of these and I'll tell you why they're here. Starting with, in no particular order, I got my slip so I know what I paid for them, because that always comes up. Although it's good banter to have comments, I guess I try to avoid the obvious questions. Everybody always wants to know how much for this, how much for that, and the part numbers. I'll see what I can do with the part numbers, but a lot of times when I shop, I don't know the part number. I go by description, and that's how I find stuff. So if you can describe it and type it into Google, you'll probably find it. Let's start with these TH400 intermediate snap rings. Starting with a stock one, but we all replaced to something more robust. It's pretty spindly. It comes out of the case with almost no resistance. It's 90 thousandths thick and 100 and call it 55 wide this way. So remember that, 90 by 155. This is what I normally use. Took it out of a box over there. I have parts, new parts everywhere. It's in my head, I know where to look for them, but lately I've been reboxing stuff and trying to make it easy to find, and it's a learning curve again. So here is one, I believe it's out of a 727 transmission. They come in two different thicknesses, so it looks massive compared to the stock one, and it's very thick, harder to install and remove, which is a good thing. But it's only 95 thousandths thick, so this one only gained 5 thousandths. Again, it comes in 108 as well. I believe I have some down yonder. But as far as width goes, it's a full 1/4 inch. That was 155. This has got 100 thousandths on the width. So in a recent order, on Summit actually, I bought some ATI intermediate snap rings. There was no picture, so I didn't know what I was going to get. As soon as I took it out of the box, I'm like, that looks like a stock snap ring. That's pretty disappointing. They were $8.95 a piece, I believe. $8.41. And they are, let's start with thickness, 106-ish. In width, they're almost 220. So looks can be deceiving. It's not quite as visually imposing as this one, but it's thicker and almost as wide, within 30, 40 thousandths. So it'll be a good choice thickness wise, and your clutch clearance, it moves the snap ring every time it applies the intermediate clutches. It bounces in the case. I like to have as big a snap ring as possible to prevent wearing the case out like that, but it doesn't seem to bother. So that's that. Let's move on. Well, let's just hit this stuff here. When I build transmissions such as the one I mentioned, the SFI transmission, you buy a new case and all kinds of new stuff, but you still need most of a core for all the small things, the snap rings, the bolts, hide parts, center support, pump, that kind of stuff. And it's funny, when I started just a few years ago, kind of transitioning into doing more I've done rebuilt transmissions my whole life, worked in transmission shops, but when I went out on my own, I had no particular plan. I was just going to work on hot rods in general, do all kinds of stuff, which I did, and ended up working on transmissions. Actually works out better for me because they take up less space and more room for my junk. So again, it's so frustrating when you're trying to put something together and you don't have, like for instance, this is a snap ring that holds the spring retainer for the piston on the direct and forward clutch on the Turbo 400. So I was looking for something else. These are ATI. I also got them from Summit. 89 cents a piece. That sure is a lot less frustrating than stripping an entire transmission or looking around through all your drums for a snap ring. So I have a bunch of used ones I've saved up from, it's not the end of the world. A couple summers ago, I was stripping some rusty transmissions. Well, any piece you can save helps out. So I ended up buying 6 of these, I guess. So this combined with my used ones, I'll probably be okay for a while. I'm going to throw stuff in a box down here, so don't be alarmed. Just cleaning the bench. Same goes for, I measured and bought flange bolts for the valve body on the Turbo 400, both the 1/4 inch and the 5/16. Because I was, once again, building transmissions from parts. You go to put the valve body in and you don't have the right bolts. So I went ahead and made the investment. When I buy bolts, I buy at least 100 bags, if not more. So it's nice when you reach for the right stuff, but those stupid little detent spring, hard to come by, and sometimes very expensive. So I saw these were $131, $7.16. I've seen as high as $25 on eBay for just that detent spring. So I stocked up on those. ATI is really good. For instance, when I buy like a reed case, it doesn't come with any of the POC mechanism. I buy all the ATI stuff. It's going to cost you almost $150 to buy everything. The spring, the guide, the POC and pawl, the rooster, the linkage shaft, which we're getting to. It's expensive, but that you got to strip a transmission and have it sitting around without all the linkage, and it may be someday you're going to want to put it back together. So I try to keep in bulk every piece. Some stuff's a little more obscure, so when I find it, I go ahead and buy it. I only bought 2 of those, and I question why. Maybe they only had 2 in the future. So let's talk linkage for a minute. The shift shafts, if you're not careful, you can break them. My method is now I strip the transmission, and whatever external linkage is on it, I leave it there. I, again, file the end where the rooster sits, get it up through the case without wrecking it, clean it up, and then I'll put the linkage itself in the vise so the shaft is hanging free, and break the nut loose that way. And if it's not breaking loose, put heat to it. Try not to wreck it. Here's one that ended up getting bent, and that's 20-something bucks. So how much did I pay for these? There's a 05K. So this manual shaft, $21.72. It is Turbo 400, almost all of them, and the early 480s before they had the neutral safety switch on the side of the transmission. That takes a longer one, which you can also put in the 400, but it's just going to stick the linkage out a mile. Unless you're going to retrofit a neutral start switch on it, which you could. You'd have to make your own brackets for it, but you could do it. So this is direct replacement in almost all of them. I say almost because the early Turbo 400s didn't have the metal clad linkage seal that drives in from the outside. They had an O-ring on the shaft. So this does not have the O-ring. But I stock them, and most of the time this is my replacement. Works really good. However, if you have a transmission where the case is damaged, won't hold the metal clad seal, or happens to be one of the early cases and you're trying to do something with it, it would be nice to have an alternative. So Sonex, once again, also sells this cool kit. Same shaft but with an O-ring groove. They give you the O-ring. They also give you the universal external linkage. And I think this one's actually cheaper than the other one. Let me look. 01K. No, it's $2 more. No, $1.50 more. So for an extra $1.50, you get an O-ring type shaft. So you could actually put the O-ring in the case, because the shafts are all the same OD. The case is all the same. So you should be able to put the O-ring on there and put it through there. I've never done it, but I almost had to the other day. That's why I bought these. And you could still run this through the metal clad seal if the case is still, one will accept it and two will still hold it. So the reason why I was attracted to these the other day, not to mention it's a great deal with the external linkage and all that, but if you had one that wouldn't stop leaking, or there's some other reason why you didn't want to scrap the whole case, but you wanted to give something else a try, I have two of these. They may sit here till the end of time, but it's good to have a backup plan, always. I'm trying my clicker, and it didn't work. Let me see if I actually shut you off. It's upsetting because I put a new battery in it before I started the video, but this time I probably just talked too long. It only has maybe an 8-minute window, and I just talked for 12 minutes, so I get it. This next package, you can buy the three 3-piece bearings that are in the lower unit of a Turbo 400 and a 4L80. You can buy the kits that have them all, and they're all individually, they tell you what position they go in, which helps if you don't want to reference the book, which sometimes I still do. Sometimes I look at it and say, you know, I've done this 1,000 times. I'm going to double check myself, so it happens. But I looked at the name brand. It's JTEKT. That's, wow, that must be foreign, but made in USA. Can't say I've ever heard of it. These are Sonex, are resold as Sonex, but they left all the information on it. But it's a whole thrust bearing kit, and it was not a lot of money. That's why I bought a couple. I should have bought more. The G10 bearing kit, $16.79. You go on eBay, these will be $30. So that is a good deal, because you got to add tax on everything, and I qualified for free shipping. I always qualify for free shipping. I will spend extra money to get free shipping. This little item, I wish I had them all along. These are spring retainers for the forward and direct drums. Your stock spring retainer has four, I can bust one out, 4 little raised areas that lock in. I gotta keep digging. That lock in the snap ring. The little snap ring I just threw in the box there. When you add the heavy springs to the direct drum, having a much thicker, these are made of thicker metal. I should have measured it for you, but I didn't. But trust me, it's a lot thicker. This thing feels solid. And it has 5 instead of 4 little indentations. So they spread that, these lock the snap ring. When this comes up with spring pressure, the snap ring is inside these little grooves. Now you got an extra one working for you to help hold the snap ring in. But I feel much better compressing this with the heavy trans brake release springs that have to go in the direct drum. I don't see any reason to put them in the forward drum. That typically has stock springs, unless there's other reasons why you want to. But and these come in a 5-pack, 54-12. Excuse me for not having everything written down here. Where are they? $16.48 for a pack of 5. Now that is awesome. So I grabbed a few packages, and probably every time I reorder some stuff when I'm ordering miscellaneous parts, I make sure I always have some. I've never had a failure of the stock retaining plate, but I'm really careful compressing it with those heavy springs, and you're pushing with my spring compressor and it's bending it a little bit. It all settles in when the snap ring comes up against the grooves, but that makes me feel better. So every trans brake Turbo 400 from now on will get one of those. And in this case, I should give you the part number. Those particular ones, it is a Sonex 3455 4-12. That's a 5-pack heavy duty spring retaining plates. This rig is an adjustable rear servo pin for a Turbo 400 or 4L80E. I actually have bought the tool, the Kentmore J tool. Somebody sent me a link to it, which thank you, by the way. It was on eBay, $30, $40. I said, you know what, I'm gonna buy the tool, and it tells you, it's all in the ASTG manual, ATSG. And it references the factory has different lines on the end of the pin right here for different lengths. Somebody's ground this one, that's why I didn't reuse it. It's a good piston. And maybe in the right application, that pin would be the right length, but I felt it was too short, so I put a different one in it. This one is adjustable, and you can actually lock it in place and use it. It's not just for measuring. So while I have the tool, it would correctly figure that out. I've showed you my method for doing it. I just put this in with no O-ring by hand, and I physically check the travel. So I've yet to even practice with the tool or see how it works out compared to my feel, because for decades, that's what I've done, and it works. Doesn't make it right or wrong. I just got a feel, and then I air check it afterwards, and you can watch it work. You can hear how much it's probably traveling. If it makes a, you know what I mean, a bigger ka-thunk than normal, or if it drags, obviously it's too tight. But most of the time, I'm all about procedures, but in this case, I've done it my way so long, and probably everybody does it my way. I'm not sure. I saw somebody else talking about it one time, so maybe they do. So anyway, but I have one just in case I get in a situation where even if I use my tool and I don't have the right pin at the right length, I can make my own. Last Sonex item anyway. I saw these the other day and was curious about them. They're lower unit end play shims. They weren't big money. They were, just embarrassing part of the video, $7.61 for a 10-pack. They're 5/1000ths thick, which isn't much. So it'd be, if you were really close in your end play, you can add a few of these. Typically when I add the bearing in the back in place of the the selective shim in the back, and this I move forward into the lower unit between the reaction carrier and the other carrier. Drawing my blank here, but typically it takes the bearing in 10/1000ths thick, so 2 of these would do it. But also, you could put these between the carriers. When you move this shim forward, the shim is the correct size. If you needed to change the end play there or add to this, typically I don't do that, but it is an acceptable area if you want to reaction carrier float and everything. You can add a little bit of shim there as well. Again, not something I normally do, but you can do it. You can also add a bearing there if you wanted to, with some machining. So I bought these the other day. I use rear end shims when I put this bearing it down inside the case, because I have a whole bunch of them and I've yet to run out of them. But now just another tool in the toolbox. It's frustrating when you get to that point and you don't have like a simple shim. So lastly is not a problem solver, it's a problem creator. Russell fittings, excellent quality. They cost more typically. I don't know where these fittings are actually made. It's American Torrance, California is where the company's from. And they're bought by Eldebrock. So I've been buying these cool line fittings, straight thread for a Turbo 400 and other transmissions that take a straight thread, like most GM automatics. Because they have the right copper washer on them. So while they're $1 or $2 more than an ICT billet or somebody else's that has an O-ring or even a plastic washer, these already come with the right copper washer. The part number is 640520. So recently I bought 2 more. I used some of these. I just wanted to restock. They show up, same part number, different looking package now. Now they're based in Olive Branch, Mississippi, Eldebrock Group, and now they got an O-ring. I don't want an O-ring. I'm not anti O-ring, but in the case of a transmission case, the Turbo 400, there's no receiver groove for the O-ring. It just gets squished flat. Not an ideal spot for an O-ring. Typically, there's a area that's going to receive it and contain it and still be the right depth to let the O-ring do its job. It's not just going to be on a flat surface. So I'll get copper washers for these, but upsetting. Again, I don't know if they recently got bought or now they're coming somewhere else. But it's little changes like that that I find upsetting to a product you use all the time that you counted on, and now it's no better than the rest. And you know what? Nobody cares. If I call and say something, they'll, yeah, I might as well just talk to a bird outside probably. I haven't given them a chance. There is a phone number on it. Perhaps I'll do the tech line right there. Does this one have a tech line? Nope. Well, same phone number, so I'll give it a shot. Why not? So that'll be my little project as soon as I hang up. So that's my bench, now clear, that portion of it. Wait. I'll save that one for the phone number. Thanks for watching my rambling, and I'll catch you in a couple days. I'm not going to promise, but maybe working on this transmission. So thanks a lot. Let's see if this works now. Nope. Oh boy. Well, anyway, you get to listen to my voice for just a couple more seconds. Have a good one.